This is crazy. In this video, I'm going to show you just how powerful Serum 2's new clip view is for jungle. It's a complete game changer for chopping up breakbeats and turning them into playable patterns. Once you unlock its hidden features like clip offsetting, macros, and play modes, it becomes a powerhouse for creating fresh breaks on the fly. I'll take you through everything from mapping and chopping to building call and response grooves. By the end, you'll see how easy it is to flip raw breaks into full-on junglism inside Serum 2. Let's dive in. Before we start, let's have a refresher on loading up breaks in Serum 2. First, choose the sample mode, pull in your favorite break, and then choose between slice auto or manual mode. With slice auto mode, you can use a slider to detect slices. Otherwise, we can snap to manual mode, where you can zoom in using your mouse's jog wheel, and then you can move the slices. I like to snap to 0, which is the 0 point on the XY axis of the waveform. That just ensures nice and clean slices. Now, I'm pretty anal when I cut up my breaks. I like my slices to start right at the beginning of each transient. You can move the slices, you can add new slices by holding Alt and click, and by default, the slices play from octave 1. To remove a slice, just Alt and click again. By the way, if you haven't seen it yet, I have an entire video dedicated to using Serum 2 for breaks. Tons of tips and tricks in that video. You can see the video up here. Next, click on this one-shot drop-down and choose tailed. This is where it creates a tail at the end of the slice, especially useful if you're playing the break at slower tempos than the original break. Alright, now it's time to send a pattern to the clip view. If your break is cut to a perfect bar or multiples of a bar, you can actually right click on the waveform and then send that pattern to clip 1. And that'll send a pattern directly to here. However, my aiming break has an extra beat and a half, so it doesn't actually map it correctly in terms of the timing. So we're not going to use this clip here. However, very useful if you have a break that's mapped exactly to a bar. So with that said, let's draw in a pattern. You can select and then hit Ctrl-Command-D to duplicate the note and then move it up. Shift and arrow left or right will shorten that note. Now we have our pattern. Let's name our pattern here, and then you can copy and paste patterns to additional clip pads here. Actually, there's a start point, so you can actually start this one here. So it starts at the snare. So remember, by default, the breaks map to octave C1. So remember, when you're drawing in the notes, to start at C1. Also, make sure to check out the retrig mode. That just ensures that every time you play the pattern, it starts at the beginning. Otherwise, it'll just start randomly from where it's left off. Also, I like to set my launch quantize to 8th notes. That just makes it snap on to the next closest 8th note when triggering these patterns. And I have a bunch of other patterns that I created. I'll show you how we'll be using all these momentarily. Just a quick pointer, you may want to enable this edit all mode. This just means that when edit all is enabled and I change certain parameters such as the launch quantize, it changes it to 1/8 for all the pads here. Whereas if edit all was not on, if I change this to 1/16, only this one's launch quantize will be set to 1/16. So just keep in mind of that. Alright, now that we have a basic pattern on clip 1, I can show you some cool stuff we can do in Serum 2's clip view. First and foremost is the play mode. Currently it's set to normal, meaning it just plays normally in forward mode. Reverse mode plays it in reverse. Pendulum is interesting, it'll start forward and back. Random is nice because then it plays it randomly. And this is useful for creating brand new aiming patterns. Essentially what you could do is hit record in Ableton and play this, and you'll have a brand new aiming pattern, which you can use to chop up and rearrange in your track. Random no duplicates is helpful because then it doesn't repeat any section within one bar. This would be especially useful in longer samples and breaks. Random start just starts randomly within the pattern and then just plays forward. random end. One-shot mode and static mode isn't useful for our purpose here, but we'll show this in an upcoming video when we use this for bass and pads. The rate might be handy as well. You might want to double the speed or half time. Interestingly, you can turn on triplet or dotted mode, which creates some interesting timings. Now onto something really fun and interesting, which is the KB span setting. Now the first two settings isn't useful for breaks because this is more meant for bass or synth patches where you can transpose the clip based on the key that you're playing. But what's really fun is when you set KB span, which means keyboard span, to offset. And what this does is it chops up your pattern and maps it to your key. So the way this maps to your keys depends on your quantize setting. If you right click on the top right of your key roll here, we're just going to set it to 1/8. So meaning every 1/8 of this pattern will be mapped to a different key on your keyboard. So that's another neat way to create new patterns. If you want to make it a little easier, you can chop it up, say instead of 1/8 notes, you can choose 1/4 notes and see what happens. And you'll notice that it maps it indefinitely going up your key. So although in 1/4 mode, we should technically have only 4 notes. After it reaches the 4th note on your keyboard, which is D sharp, it starts over again. So then E would be this slice over here. So this is a neat way to create new patterns using breaks as well. Now the really fun way I like to use the clip view in Serum 2 is to have keyboard span off. So instead we're triggering the clips. And this is what's so special about the clip view in Serum 2. You'll notice here on the bottom left of the key roll, there's this clip window here with 12 keys. Essentially it's 1 octave here. And then notice over here, the clip pads actually map to a different key on the octave here. You'll see that this one's light gray, this is dark gray, light gray, dark gray, and so forth, which matches the color shading of the keys in an octave. You have light, dark, light, dark, light, light. So these clips actually map to a specific key on your controller, namely octave 0. So if I move down onto octave 0 of my controller, C0 would be this pattern, C sharp would be this pattern, D would be this pattern, and so forth. So knowing this, let's use our controller and trigger these patterns to create a new jungle pattern. And just like that, you're creating jungle on the fly. Now remember, when you're setting this up, I mentioned that launch quantize is 1/8. It just makes it easier, especially if you have poor timing, that it locks onto the closest 1/8 note. However, if you have good timing, you can set it to 16s or 32s. However, if I do it, it might sound really off. Actually doesn't sound that bad, but I just find it's cleaner when the snares and kicks map onto the closest 1/8 note, so I like setting it to that. Also on trigger mode, make sure it's set to mono instead of poly. Poly would be more for synths where you can play multiple overlapping notes or clips. However, with this, we just want mono so that the moment we trigger a subsequent clip, it stops the previous clip. And that's how we're creating new patterns, by chopping between clips here. And just to show you if it isn't that clear, I have 6 patterns here. The regular Ableton pattern here. Another one which is offset, meaning it starts at the snare. And then I have this. A stutter, a faster stutter, and this crash. So I'm triggering all of these. Let's try a different mode here where we set the mode of this clip here to random note duplicate. So this will make things a little more interesting as well. So pretty fun. If you want to skip all the hard work of chopping, programming, and sound designing inside Serum, I've already done it for you. I've put over 150 hours in creating my new preset pack called JUNGLISM. It's loaded with massive breakbeats, bass, and synth presets that come built in with MIDI patterns, macros, and expressive controls. Everything is dialed in and mixed so you can start making authentic jungle grooves within seconds. This isn't just another Serum 2-pack, it's a toolkit designed for the future of jungle. Here's a demo of some of the presets. Let me know if you recognize this one. Here's another nasty 𝗙𝗏𝗡 preset with a Reese bass. Here's one more. This one's really fun. Goes out to all the old school junglists. If you're interested in my JUNGLISM Serum 2 preset pack, check the links down below. It's on pre-order right now for 20% off, but once it's out officially on September 25th, the discount ends. Don't miss the chance to lock it in early. This pack is built to inspire, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on it. Alright, now that you know the basic functionality of Serum 2's clip view, I'm going to show you some more advanced tricks to take your JUNGLISM to the next level. So over on the top right of the clip view, remember you can right click to bring a context menu. You can actually map the start point of a clip to a macro. Then you can either map it to a mod wheel or specific macro. I find mapping it to a mod wheel is quite interesting because then you can just use the mod wheel. I'll show you what happens when we do this. Also, remember to check the quantize mode. Let's set it back to an 8th note. And now let's play the pattern while changing the mod wheel. I'm just going to use the mouse this time to change the mod wheel. So what it's doing is the mod wheel setting is changing the start position of this clip. And remember I said that the quantize setting is important. If we set it to 16th, then it'll play to the closest 16th. And this might be cool, but I like 8ths. Yeah, you notice how it's a bit more choppy and random on 16, so I think 8th is the best for it to sound nice and fluid. So that's another way you can chop up the 𝗙𝗏𝗡 break using Serum 2. Then I would record what you're doing so you have a new 𝗙𝗏𝗡 break pattern. Alright, let's show you some more fun macro settings to make your JUNGLISM even more fun. So with the sample mode, there's a scan rate, and this essentially is how fast it plays the sample. The faster it plays, the higher the pitch. So notice as I increase the scan mode, 100 is at this point. If we slow it down, and if we bring it underneath 100, it slows down. And then negative values reverses it. So knowing this, we can then map this to your pitch wheel. First and foremost, set your pitch settings to 0 up and down, because we'll be using this to map the scan rate instead of the actual pitch. So we right click on the scan rate and just map it to your pitch bend. Now to make this work properly, we had to set the scan rate setting to 0%. And in the matrix with the pitch bend set to scan rate, we have to adjust the curve. And we want to add a point up here. Hold Alt and dragging it will snap onto this point. This just ensures that when the pitch wheel is at default mode, it plays at regular pitch. And then when you move the pitch wheel up, it actually pitches up. And when you move the pitch wheel down, it first slows down. And then when it reaches below negative values, it'll be in reverse. So watch this, paying attention to my pitch wheel on the bottom left. Alright, the really fun stuff starts to happen when you start to map a bunch of different effects to the macros. So here I have a delay effects, EQ effects, even distortion effects mapped to various macros. And within the clip view, this is the fun part, is that we can set macro values. So by clicking this lane here, you can add additional macro automations here. Essentially, I have the 𝗙𝗏𝗡 break here, and macro 6, 7, and 8, and 5. 5 corresponds to the pitch. You can also show the macros at the top here. So you can see the number. So I have the pitch, distortion, EQ, and reverb macro settings. And over here, I have Amened 2 with completely different settings on the same effects. So if I play Amened 1, that's how it sounds. And then I play Amened 2. So they're playing the exact same Amened sample, but the pitch, distortion, and EQ settings are completely different. So it makes it almost sound like you have two different breaks. Now the fun part happens when you chop between the two patterns here. So I'll just play it for you so you can hear how it sounds. And it sounds like 1998 again. No U-Turn Records and Renegade hardware. As well, if you have a MIDI controller, you can then map these actual macros to various knobs on your controller. So you can right-click on the macro, choose MIDI Learn, and then just move the macro of choice, and then it should automatically map to that knob or your controller. This makes it super fun because now we can perform these clips while adjusting the macro settings, pitch wheel, and mod wheel settings for some great effect. Now I actually mapped the mod wheel to a filter, so we can do some interesting filter sweeps when we play with the mod wheel. Alright, so let's put it all together. I'm going to be triggering the clips with my MIDI controller. Pay close attention to the mod wheel and the pitch wheel as well as the macros as I perform this track. And I'm going to be performing it over a bass preset off JUNGLISM. So let's check it out. Oh yeah, and with some JUNGLISM live and direct. If you enjoyed that performance and want more presets like the one I just built, I've already done all the work for you. My new Serum 2-pack JUNGLISM comes loaded with break presets that are fully chopped, mapped to macros and MIDI, and ready to play right away. Plus bass and synth presets designed specifically for jungle. You can grab it now on pre-order for 20% off until the release date on September 25th. Don't miss this if you want to instantly level up your jungle production. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed watching my tips on how you can turn Serum 2 into a jungle powerhouse. From chopping up breaks to the different play modes in the clip view and then mapping to macros, the possibilities are endless. Learn all these tricks and I look forward to what you create with Serum 2. My name is STRANJAH, music producer of over 25 years with releases on Metalheadz, Critical Music, and Hospital Music. If you want more preset packs, sample packs, Ableton kits, you can check it all out at deviantaudio.com. Links down below. If you want to see more videos on chopping up Amened breaks, check this playlist up here. If you want to learn more about drum and bass sound design, check this playlist up here. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay creative and peace out.